So let's get the hits to keep on coming and talk now about the next division, and that is the NFC West. Looking at this division, let's start off with the worst and work our way up to first. We'll start off with the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think this is a very good team. Jed York, Trent Baalke, hats off to them. If they wanted to create a crappy organization and run an organization into the ground, then mission accomplished. Honestly, when you look at the San Francisco 49ers, what real reason is there for optimism this year? You can say, well, maybe Carlos Hyde stays healthy the whole season and they can really control the clock and really pound the football between the tackles. Well, problem is the offensive system they're going to run, even if they run the ball well, they're not going to control the clock very much. You can say defensively that their front seven isn't bad, and that is true. Their front seven is not bad. You've got recent first-round picks in DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead. You've got some pass rush talent on the outside. You know, the front seven of this Niners defense, I will confess, is not bad. But this is still not a good football team. They may be able to win a few games because of their defense, but let's face it, you're going to pin your hopes on Blaine Gabbert as your starting quarterback, and if he doesn't produce, then it's Colin Kaepernick. You know, with all the talk about the national anthem protest and this and that, the fact is people are talking a lot more about the San Francisco 49ers organization than they ultimately deserve. You know, between that and the impending disaster that has been the Chip Kelly hiring, it didn't work out in Philadelphia. I don't know why San Francisco just had to have him. The only measure of success to me this year for the San Francisco 49ers, in my opinion, is that they lose as many games as possible and get in position to get a real marquee quarterback in the 2017 NFL Draft. I expect them to win 3 games, maybe 4 if I'm being generous, but I'll probably go on record and say 3-13. Just doesn't have the look of a very good football team. I don't see it. The Rams, there's all this talk about them moving to Los Angeles, going back home after over 2 decades away in St. Louis. The big move up the draft board from 15 to pick 1 to take Jared Goff, the quarterback from California, the California kid who's going to come in and be the face of the franchise, except he starts the season as the number 3 quarterback on your depth chart and most likely is inactive for week number 1. Oopsie daisies. Now, the cupboard isn't totally bare for Los Angeles. You've got Todd Gurley, who's a stud, should be very quickly the best running back in the National Football League. On defense, you've got an impressive front four that can get after the quarterback. They can be tough to run against, led by Aaron Donald, the best interior defensive lineman in the National Football League, bar none, period. But you have questions about the linebacking core, some questions to me in the secondary. On offense, you have questions about the skill talent on the outside, the offensive line opening up holes for Gurley and protecting the quarterback. And then you look at this season, and in a lot of ways it's supposed to be about the development and growth of Jared Goff. Because at the end of the day, part of the reason you made that big move up the board for Jared Goff is because you didn't think guys like Case Keenum and Sean Mannion could be the answer. So why the hell would you draft Jared Goff to make him number 3 quarterback on your depth chart? Even if you weren't incredibly impressed with his preparation in the offseason program, if you didn't come away that impressed with his preseason play, I mean, the fact is you're still rolling into a season with Case Keenum and Sean Mannion as the top 2 quarterbacks on your depth chart. You know, for the Rams, their only hope is that Keenum and or Mannion bombs early, that it gives them no choice, but they have to play Goff early because they need to, because that's what it needs to be about long term. Because after the Rams put up yet another losing season this year, and Jeff Fisher and perhaps even Les Snead are sent packing, and you bring in a new regime to Los Angeles, you need to know that Jared Goff can be that answer long term. This is probably a 7-9 team again, and that people will see those occasional flashes and think they should be a whole lot more before the reality sets in that this is a modern Jeff Fisher coach team, and this is who they are. For the Seattle Seahawks, you're always going to look at them with the current construction with that great Legion of Boom defense and the star power on that side of the ball, and Russell Wilson and his growth, especially last year where he looked like he wanted to become an elite NFL quarterback and not just be a star who's practicing celibacy with Sierra. You know, this is a team you look at and you think can potentially get into the playoffs and cause some damage, and I don't disagree with that assessment. They've got a great home field advantage. They've got a style of football that typically translates pretty well to the playoffs, but there are questions about their running game. Is Thomas Rawls going to be able to stay healthy? Can he be that guy? Is somebody else on that roster able to be that guy? I look at Jimmy Graham. It's a guy they traded for big last year, gave up a lot to get him, and then tried to shoehorn him in and have him do Seattle Seahawks things like be an inline blocker, which is completely ridiculous. You bring in Jimmy Graham to bring something different to your offense. to work your offense around him, not try and shoehorn him into your offense. With him now coming off of that torn patella tendon, it will be incredibly interesting to see if the Seattle Seahawks learn from the mistakes of last year, learn their lessons, and deploy Jimmy Graham in a different way. Because if they do, and he's healthy, he can bring something different to that offense. If not, then it was just a wasted move, and he doesn't help the team whatsoever. You might as well not even have him on the field. I'm still concerned about their offensive line. Yes, they spent a first-round pick on Ifedi, the offensive lineman for Texas A&M. I still wonder how well they're going to be able to protect Russell Wilson up the middle. This is a good team. Early on in the year, they're going to need to beat the Rams in week number 2 because that was a bugaboo of theirs last year. You're a superior team to the Rams in so many ways. I know they match up relatively well against you. They play a similar type of style. But your defense is better and your quarterback is much better and your offensive talent is much better. You can't be losing to those jokers. Later on in the year, we're going to find out who the Seahawks really are because in their last 5 games, they host Carolina. They go to Green Bay. Those are 2 tough games back-to-back against 2 potential Super Bowl contenders. Then the last 3 weeks of the year, you have to handle your business in the division. Well, they host the Rams, they host the Cardinals, and they go to San Francisco. There's a chance for them to really make some hay and go on one of those Seahawks runs late in the year in those last 5 games, or things could go south there very quickly. I think this is a good team. I don't know if they're a great team. I don't know if they quite have the same mystique or element that they did a couple of years ago. They could probably win 10 games, maybe 11, but I settle more on maybe 10-6. I think the clear class of the division is the Arizona Cardinals. You look at their offensive talent, their offensive depth and explosiveness, the impact players they have on defense like Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu coming off of his injury. The trade for Chandler Jones gives them an impact edge rusher that they were sorely needing. This is a team with some quality experience that has quite a bit of continuity, that is a very well-coached squad. This is a team that, in theory, should be a real Super Bowl contender. The question is their defense good enough? More importantly, is Carson Palmer good enough in those big spots and in those big moments? And the answer so far has been no. Look at that NFC Championship game against Carolina. That's all the proof you need. This is really kind of that shit or get off the pot year with Arizona. If they don't get it done this year, they may never get it done. But they very well could get it done this year. And early on, the schedule looks favorable to them. They host New England, who won't have Tom Brady in the lineup. They host Tampa Bay. They go to Buffalo. They host the Rams. They go to San Francisco. They host the Jets. Those are 6 winnable games. This team could start off the season 6-0. And if you start off 6-0, you're in a very big power position. And you really built yourself some momentum where you could potentially run away on high, not only with this division, but potentially with home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. That's the upside for this Cardinals team. They can make it to the Super Bowl. Will they is ultimately yet to be determined, and it'll be largely determined based off of Carson Palmer's health and Carson Palmer's ability to play big at the big moments.